So we are now on to episode 2. So welcome. It's been exciting to do the first 2. Or now that our nerves are a little bit down, we're going to try to make this a little bit more funny, still informative.
Yeah.
So this particular episode, we really kind of want to focus on maybe a little bit more on Allergan. Also, who is our clientele? We do want a little bit of those males to come in and not be so fearful. So hopefully we can share some funny stories about that. But is this for men?
I absolutely think
Yes.
it needs to be. Okay.
I think more men need to be treated than we even see here because their wrinkles can get
Out of
deep.
control.
Yes.
I mean, I know
And
that
they
they
don't wear
age
sunscreen.
gracefully and all, but come on now. It's time.
It's time.
Well, I kind of feel like my first few men that came in probably a few years ago, I think they were a little bit more fearful that they
Right.
were losing their jobs to these younger men. So I thought we need to capture these men that that have that. But there is this younger generation, I think, that are coming in. And so how do we grasp them? Does it need to be on the wives' side that
Absolutely.
says,
We
hey,
need to drag them in here.
Yes,
we need to drag them in?
You know, we do get a lot of couples that come in together.
We do. Which
And once they see how it looks and that they look great, they keep coming back.
it definitely doesn't feminize them.
No, not
right?
at all.
It
That
just-
might be a reason why they don't come in. They think spa and they think girly and they think like Botox is, a feminine thing.
Right.
But it really isn't.
Well, I know that we keep mentioning Botox, and so I do want to kind of mention we do carry both Botox and Dysport or Dysport, whoever wants to say whichever one. They do work very similarly. Their units are a little bit different, but we do like Botox. It's made by Allergan, which we kind of wanted to touch on.
It's the gold standard.
It really is. They are the big game player in this industry. They have a lot of money to pay on research and development. They advertise for us, and I definitely think it lasts longer. Do you feel like it lasts longer?
Absolutely lasts longer.
So I would say that just to be a little bit more informative, Botox does have an indication for every 3 to 4 months. It does last longer I think, than the Dysport. And if it's not, it's probably because we're underdosing. Right. And so if for some reason I do have a client that comes in and they want less or they think it's not lasting very long, we absolutely need to be doing more Botox than that.
And sometimes I'll switch it up if the Botox isn't working or if they're not feeling it, then I'll switch it up to Dysport, but not very often.
It's not very often. So how many of you had, or Tish really, how many clients have you had come in and say they have to hide it from their husband?
Yes, and pay on 5 different cards.
Yes.
They don't want their husbands to know. The husbands are afraid that they're going to come home looking funny.
Yes, I think that's what it is too.
But one time I did have a client, and she had to sell a cow to get the money. And she brought in like $1,200 in cash, and we did her whole face. It was awesome.
You know
Because
what?
she didn't want her husband to know.
At that front desk, I couldn't tell you how many times women would come in and they're like, okay, put $300 on this card, $200 on this card, and I'm paying the rest in cash. And it's like, okay, anyway, we could do it several different transactions if you want. But I mean, that is definitely one of those things that they try to
I had
do.
a client, and her husband did not know. And I gave her the biggest bruise on her eye. And she had to tell him that she was changing a tire and hit herself.
I mean,
She still came back.
Yeah, a bird flew and hit me in the face.
there's a lot of funny stories that
Yeah.
we hear for sure.
Yeah.
I think one of mine is they like to go to the grocery store and they'll hide $20 or $40 cash in there, and it's their beauty budget.
spa
So
budget,
every
exactly.
time they go, they hide a little bit. Well, one of the things I want to mention back in our earlier days when we were doing that, and people were coming in 1 month to do their forehead with Botox, the next month to do their corrugators or their angry muscle, and then their crow's feet. It really is important that we know that Botox needs to be done every 3 to 4 months. If you are coming too soon, which, we do have those clients that micromanage us and they want to come in every single month, it really isn't good for them.
Right.
It will
could
not
stop working.
Yeah, that might be a reason why we're switching to Dysport or Dysport, because we are doing it too frequently. So our goal is to get you on a regimen that is every 3 months.
Yeah, for sure.
So filler, that's another fun thing that we're doing with Allergan. There are lots of different filler on the market. The reason why I choose to do Allergan products is they just last longer.
Yeah.
If I were to ask my client, would you be okay spending $100 more on a product that's going to last you 3 to 4, maybe 6 months longer? Every one of them would say yes.
Absolutely.
So I know
it's a big investment.
it is a big investment, and you want it to last. And for instance, for me, I think in the beginning, I used to do Radiesse. And Radiesse, I don't want to downplay any other product, but it sure felt like after about 3 months it would dive down a little bit, and then we were holding hands to get them through while their own collagen built up.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, why not use a product that is hyaluronic based
Right.
and lasts that long, and you don't have to do that dip.
Right.
It doesn't
and they
have to go
so
down.
many options out there now.
Right. What is your favorite filler out of all of
Voluma.
them? Voluma. Why is
Because I
that?
love when the cheeks just come into that beautiful, look after they
Oh,
get
yeah,
it.
that
and
definition.
It lifts, it lifts
Yeah.
up everything, and people love it.
Yeah, Voluma is my favorite. I almost use it all over the face, off label, on label. I've thrown it in lips
Yeah.
recently, and I've got some great looks.
You're crazy.
I'm crazy like that, right?
She does
She's living on
crazy
the
things.
edge.
She's like the scientist back there making magic.
Oh, I love it. Well, I'm addicted to some of these Instagram sites that are teaching. Yes, I do learn off of Instagram.
I'm still
Just
trying to
saying.
learn Instagram. I'm the old lady. I'm still trying to figure it out. I'm like, I'm Facebook all the way. Yeah, my daughter reminds me that I'm not Instagram savvy.
No. Well, this podcast is a new one for me. I think I heard my first one 2 weeks ago with my daughter in the car, and it was the murder mystery.
Yeah, they're very popular.
So I love Illuma too. Getting back to that, it's a great one for the cheeks. It's just to me, my favorite filler to do everywhere. You can also use it in different areas of the body too. I've seen people, well, we won't go there.
Put it in a nose.
In a nose, yeah.
Look great.
Yeah. Other fillers that are within that realm is going to be your velour, which I like. It's a more smoothing. You can get really superficial with it. You've also got
I like to use velour in older women's lips that are they're not going for that big pouty look, but they
Right.
want that smooth
Smoothing.
from those lines that make them look
smoothness.
dehydrated.
Well, yeah, because you can do
You can see it instantly.
yeah.
And you can do a few different types of filler in the lips too. So it depends on. I know, Belinda, you've always done my lips, and we've tried different types.
right.
And I like the Juvederm Ultra
Yeah.
Plus. That's just what
Yeah.
I like, and I like it because it's a little bit more projection.
Right.
And we've tried others. Where I'm like, oh, it just
just
it's
smooths out
there,
too
and
much.
It's just,
Yeah.
but the wow.
So let's talk about longevity. I know we've mentioned a couple of those fillers, and I do feel like Allergan products do last longer. Voluma is up to 2 years, which is phenomenal, especially when you are using it off-label in different areas.
Right.
But I also, even the velour that you just mentioned lasts up to 18 months. There's just not a lot of hyaluronic acid-based fillers that last that long in the lips. And I love that you mentioned the different fillers for the lips,
Yeah.
because even though some of them are off-label, they're just so beautiful that you can get some really great results. And one of the things that we do offer at Emerge is we guarantee our work. We want you to be happy. So if you're not, we want you to come back and let's fix it.
Yep.
Hopefully, I don't think we're not usually in the fixing business. We're usually in the they want more business.
Right.
They
Well,
like
but
it.
I know we've had clients come from other places, and they've had filler in their lips, and they didn't like the way it looked, and they were too scared to go back. And there is something that we can put to help dissolve that.
Right. I love that you mentioned that. There is something called hyaluronidase.
Hyaluronidase. Hylenex.
And that's true. And I kind of almost thinking that we need to open up a new clinic to fix other people's work.
E5.
Yes. That's a good point, right? It's
But that's what I tell people too when they're concerned about getting filler. I said, here's the deal. We can always inject it with Hylenex
Yeah.
and get rid of it.
yeah.
I said, but then you're just wasting your money.
Right,
I mean,
right.
I don't want them to think of that as an option, but at least that way they're comforted knowing they're not going to look crazy for a year.
Right.
We want them to look as natural as possible. And I think the biggest things that I have fixed when people come to see me is that upper lip.
Yeah.
I mean, we are not doing
Yes.
lips naturally when we are filling those vermilion borders so much that it almost looks like you've got a ledge or a dappy
duck.
duck.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like a duck. So easily fixable. You don't need to be going around for a whole year with that look. Come in and we'll dissolve it. It takes about a week. Come back and we will we'll fill it naturally. Have you ever had to turn somebody away because they've had too much?
No, I haven't turned somebody away because they had too much, but I have turned people away where I didn't think they would get enough.
Right.
I was like,
Oh,
you
that's
need
a
a
good
facelift.
point.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that.
For the money that they wanted to spend.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that you brought that up because tear troughs is like a new thing that a lot of people want to do. And so those are tricky, and make sure that you go to an experienced person because there are definitely people that I don't want to do their tear troughs.
Agreed.
If they have a lot of swelling or allergy issues and they've almost, that fat pocket that sits behind the eye comes forward, you definitely wouldn't want to do filler on them. You're kind of making that situation worse
For
rather
them.
than
Yeah,
better.
they'll be more puffy.
So I agree with you. There are times that we will send people away to an oculoplastic to actually get those better results
Right.
than before. But as far as filler in the lips, I think I've got one story that I went and did a training on, and I swear she looked like she had 5 syringes in her lips, and she was difficult to manage. So of course they had the trainer come in, and so it was one.
And you were the lucky one.
I was the lucky one, yes. And her lips were so full that I could actually see the blood vessels in them
Wow.
because it was pushing out so much. So it was my first one that I had to
So
turn away.
How did you present it to her?
Well, I couldn't even squeeze her lip. Her lip was so full that it was not squishy at all. I mean, it was really tough. So I just talked about vascularity and the issues that you can get. If you put too much pressure on those vessels, you can actually deoxygenate the area around it, which can cause necrosis.
Dead
It can,
tissue.
it's just not a good situation. So yes, I don't think she was really happy with me for turning her away. But by the end of it, when you educate somebody on proper use, I think she got it by the end of it.
Yeah.
So she was basically Goldie Hawn in the First Wives Club. Put some more filler in there.
Absolutely. And, the other thing I want to mention is sometimes we can put filler that lasts up to a year in the lips, and it doesn't always last that long.
Right.
For,
Well, because you're moving your mouth so much.
right.
I mean, not just you.
Right.
Everybody.
Right. Yeah, like seriously. No kidding.
I do like to talk.
She likes talking.
You had to try to shut me up. Yeah, I just, people use their mouth for various reasons. And if you overuse that mouth, you might actually kind of smooth that product out a little sooner than that up to year.
But
That's kind
sometimes it lasts longer on people too.
yeah.
It just depends on the person. Your
Absolutely.
metabolism,
Exactly.
what medications you take, if you exercise, all that
Well,
stuff.
if you're straw drinkers,
Yeah,
too, people that drink
yeah.
out of a straw all the time. Because I know for me, whenever I first started getting filler, I mean, it was like, don't drink out of a straw
Right.
for the first few weeks. And I was like, oh my God, I didn't know.
I never drink out of a straw.
I know.
I
That's
don't really
Ever.
much anymore.
I know. Get rid of those straws, ladies. They're not good for you. You'll be
right.
paying to fix that area in the future. For
You
sure.
need that lip flip.
Absolutely. So what do you tell your clients that their husbands are against it?
I
mean,
say
I
don't
kinda-
tell them.
Don't.
Let's hide it together. Yeah.
Good point.
I still have women that come in that still don't tell their husbands, and they get up the nerve to eventually tell them because they see it in the bank account, the
Sure.
bank statement, Just
So
depends.
to warn those wives or significant others that are coming in, I would tell them maybe wait for them to be gone for a week or two because you might have a bruise,
Yes.
or like you had said earlier, have a creative motive or reason why.
So my husband said that he doesn't put his foot down for many things, but he didn't want me to get my lips done. So I had to wait till he went out of town. And Belinda gave me a big bruise, so I had to tell him myself.
Well,
did.
Brian,
And they look great.
He's always been like, well, when we first got into this, he was just like, don't do anything to your face. Just don't do anything freaky to your face. And I was like, I'm not. And I was like, I'm gonna have to try a little bit of this, a little bit of that.
Yeah.
But I think the fear is kind of what we've talked about before is just not looking like yourself or looking
Right.
overdone or looking different. And now he's just like, did you get something done today? I was like, yeah, I did.
I
He's
mean,
like,
What
my-
did you do today?
whatever.
My husband can't tell if I'm gone from brunette to blonde, but as soon as I put something in my lips, he's like, "What did you do today?" Like, what is going on? But they do love it. They do like it. It's a very and let's face it, lips are aging. I've got some aging
yeah.
clients that I've been throwing a little bit in there, and they
Yeah.
just love it.
Yeah.
So. I hate to say the aging client, but aren't we all aging?
Oh, yeah.
Every one of
Every
us.
day that goes
Different when you get
by.
older.
We're
We
all
lose
aging.
them.
Yeah.
For sure.
Hey, anymore, I can come home, my face is burned off. Brian's like, did you get laser done today? He probably knows more about lasers and everything than any other husband because
Yeah.
I'm like, I did a micro laser peel. And he's like, whatever.
Yeah.
How long is that going to last? A few days, but we'll be
What's that
good.
for? Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about safety.
Okay.
A little bit. Let's talk about Botox too. I know we kind of touched on that last episode, and I kind of feel like Botox is one of the safest things to inject. I feel the same way about Kybella, right? Kybella is a naturally occurring substance that is in the body. So when you put it in there, it just breaks down that fat underneath underneath the chin, and it just kind of dissolves very quickly.
And it's permanent.
Right? And so, but fillers are a little bit different than that. Let's talk about safety. I know that you need to make sure that your injector is skilled at what they're doing.
Absolutely.
The biggest possible complication that you can get is if you actually inject it into a vessel, which the good thing is if you have a skilled person doing it, they will recognize it more often than not pretty quick, and then we can resolve
Address
that
it,
issue.
yes.
Yeah. Have you had any instances?
I haven't. Have you?
I've had one.
Do
I've
you
had
Better
one.
injector now.
tell, Miss
sh- and
Ambassador?
I know, right?
I love it.
No, that's a good thing to talk about because
Yeah.
It
people, tell us about it.
Well, I did actually inject somebody in their lip, and it was years ago, and it was right outside their lip, and it actually infiltrated down below the lip, and she showed signs of pain, really, really deep pain, not just your discomfort. But even when she came back 2 or 3 days later, she was showing some signs of hypoxia, little bubbles underneath her chin, and I still didn't recognize it. I
Did
think
she show signs of pain as you were injecting it?
no, and that's a great question because our product has lidocaine mixed in it, so they're
Correct.
not going to feel that pain initially. They're going to feel it 4 hours later when they're home. So we didn't recognize it. I actually sent her to our plastic surgeon who didn't recognize it either, just because
It's rare.
Yeah, it's rare. But it happens to the best of us. You can be the best injector, and it's going to happen eventually.
Not true.
Not to you, right? Never to you. But anyways, once we finally recognized it, we injected it with the Hylenex, and she started resolving those issues pretty quickly. And surprisingly,
And
she
no residual effects from
no,
it.
no,
I've
no,
seen
no.
it.
Yeah, I mean, it could have been it could have been a lot worse.
Right.
But once we recognized it, we treated it, and recently she let me do it again.
I was going to
I
say, she's
know.
like one of your best people.
I know. Thank goodness.
I'm seeing her later today.
Well, is there anything else that you want to talk about in this podcast?
I don't think so. I think we touched it on everything.
Okay. Well, we're going to wrap it up. And what was our little thing?
Dooba.
I think our term is going to be to be continued.
Yes.
And we look forward to seeing you back on our next episode.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Sounds
Thanks,
good.
Belinda.